The physics was known for quite a while, and so that I think it hasn't really changed our understanding the quantum world work.
Job with the James Webb Space Telescope was to look as far back in time as we could to see the universe as it was young.
Changing the basic attitude about what education is for and what it needs to be.
Biology, medical studies, they make great progress.
What we can do as the Interparliamentary Union to strengthen democracy, to promote human rights, to ensure that humanitarian law is respected.
UN Security Council needs a makeover, a comprehensive reform, and India deserves a position there, a role there.
Prime Minister Modi during Operation Sindoor made it amply clear that war has never been India's choice. We are with the side of peace. We are neither neutral nor indifferent. We are with peace.
We would have dealt with US a whole lot on trade and those kinds of things, and that's not as certain these days. So we have to go back and look at our European partners, our Asian partners.
An opportunity to exchange, to have a dialogue, to have a debate on a different perspective on finding the solution of the conflict.
First thing that is important to have a common ground, and that we do have with humanitarian laws and human rights, but also to say, okay, what does it mean for us as a country?
Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of this hour. Hillary Clinton tells a congressional panel she has no knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and calls for President Trump to testify under oath about his past association. She testifies behind closed doors as Bill Clinton prepares to appear after both agree to comply with a subpoena from the Epstein investigation. The United States and Iran make progress in talks over Tehran's nuclear program, Oman says. But the end of hours of negotiations without a breakthrough amid a massive US military build-up and threat of possible strikes. Oman confirms both sides will resume discussions after capital-level consultations with technical talks set for next week in Vienna. Ukrainian and US officials meet in Geneva for post-war reconstruction talks, despite a deadlock with Russia, as Kyiv seeks to finalize key settlement details at a trilateral meeting next month. Top negotiator Rustam Urumov says participants speak with President Zelensky after the session, which follows a night of Russian attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure. Pakistan's defense minister declares open war on the Taliban after deadly border clashes and airstrikes between the two sides sharply escalate tensions. Fighting erupts after Taliban forces launch retaliatory attacks on Pakistani posts following Islamabad's airstrikes in Kabul and Kandahar, with hours of cross-border exchanges reported along the mountainous frontier. Netflix says it will not raise its takeover offer for Warner Bros. Discovery, effectively ceding the mega giant deal to rival bid from Paramount Skydance. The streaming company says the deal is no longer financially attractive after Warner Bros. Discovery's board declares Paramount Skydance's proposal superior under its existing merger terms. A US official says at least 2 Americans are on a speedboat fired upon by Cuba's Coast Guard, leaving 1 dead and another injured off the island's northern coast. 4 people are killed and 11 are wounded in Wednesday's incident. Denmark will hold a parliamentary election on March the 24th. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen announces amid a surge in support over her stance against US pressure on Greenland. Fredrickson has rallied European leaders against President Trump's renewed interest in annexing the Arctic island, with polls suggesting the dispute boosts her popularity. Keir Starmer faces a major test as voters in Manchester elect a new lawmaker in a race polls say is too close to call between Labour, Reform UK and the Greens. The Gorton and Denton vote is seen as a key challenge for the Prime Minister after policy U-turns and controversy over appointing Peter Mandelson as ambassador to Washington. Those are the headlines, but we start this hour with some breaking news coming out of the Middle East. According to Gaza's health officials, Israeli airstrikes killed 5 people in Gaza on the 26th of February as tensions rise over the ongoing ceasefire. According to officials, 2 people died in an airstrike in Gaza City's Tufa neighborhood, while 3 others were killed in drone strikes targeting police checkpoints in Khan Yunis and near Berij camp. The Israeli military claimed the airstrikes targeted a militant posing a threat to its forces in southern Gaza. Medics report several others were wounded, some critically. The violence comes amid ongoing concerns over the fragile ceasefire, which has been in place since October 2025. We now move on to our next story, where Pakistan has launched a retaliatory operation after Afghan Taliban forces allegedly attacked several border posts. According to Pakistan, the operation, code-named Ghazab Lil Haq, began late on Thursday night, resulting in the death of over 130 Taliban fighters. Pakistan's defense minister confirmed the operation is fully underway, with forces responding strongly to Taliban aggression. In the operation's first update, Information Minister said at least 133 Taliban operatives were killed and more than 200 were injured. Numerous military targets in Kabul, Kandahar and Paktia were destroyed, including 27 Taliban posts and the capture of 9 others. The Pakistan Air Force targeted key military installations, including brigade and corps headquarters in Kabul and Kandahar. More than 80 armoured vehicles, tanks and artillery pieces were also destroyed. Joining us on this ongoing and developing situation is Ambassador Suresh Goel, a former Indian diplomat, joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us here. Pleasure to have you on the programme. How and why might this escalate? Do you see this as a mere border skirmish once again erupting after this ceasefire has fallen apart, or do you see this as becoming part of something wider? What leverage does both sides have going into further conflict, and why would either side want it now?
As Asaf Ali said, I think yesterday, he described Afghanistan as a colony of India. And that demonstrates why Pakistan actually is having this, I wouldn't call them skirmishes, but why Pakistan is launching these kind of offensives against Afghanistan at the Durand line. Clearly, of course, there is a history to Durand line. Afghanistan does not recognize Durand line as a boundary between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But this is actually something different from that. This is something really Pakistan trying to punish Afghanistan for being supportive of India or for being a friend of India. And therefore, there is a larger political and strategic game behind what is now happening. Given this kind of a scenario and background, I do not expect that this is going to be a limited kind of a skirmish and will end very soon. In fact, there is a clear danger of it escalating, because Afghanistan, having suffered these kind of losses and this kind of attack, Afghanistan is not going to stay quiet. They have gone through different kinds of wars, guerrilla wars and everything. So their people are actually quite well trained, and they are going to go for it. And they were trained by Pakistani army, and that's the irony of it, really. So now, like Hillary Clinton says a long time ago, so if you nurture snakes in your sleeves, they are going to come and bite you. I think Pakistan is now suffering the consequences of what it has done in the past.
In terms of military capabilities, of course, Pakistan has far superior equipment when it comes to that. Why would the Taliban want to fight Islamabad at this point in time in particular?
Two things. First of all, Pakistan army thinking that the Taliban was created by Pakistan and therefore Taliban should be subjugate to the Pakistani setup is not going to work. Afghans are highly nationalistic. They are very egotistic people with a great sense of pride in where they come from. So for anyone to say that you're subordinate to us, it doesn't work, and that is what Pakistan is doing. And therefore, I think Afghanistan, even if they are fighting against a better equipped army, they're going to fight back. Number one. Number two, even if Pakistani army is better equipped, Taliban has been trained in the art of not war but fighting, and they have been able to take on even forces like the American forces within Afghanistan. So they are quite confident of themselves that they will be able to deal with the situation, and that is where I think the issue is.
Do you think that this risks drawing in further actors? Of course, the likes of India, the likes of China, Russia, Turkey. What are your thoughts on this becoming something wider, bringing in those regional alliances, if there's a possibility of that?
I don't think India and China are going to actively intervene in this war. That will not work out. As far as Turkey is concerned, I do not know. But my own gut feeling, and this is just an instinct, is that other countries are going to stay away from this because I don't think any great, at least as far as Turkey and China is concerned, China maybe yes, but I don't think they have any great significant national interests involved in this fight between Taliban, Afghanistani Taliban and Pakistani army.
And if the Taliban have truly captured these 15 Pakistani posts, as they claim to have, what does this say about their conventional military capacity? We know that the terrain is mountainous, it's extremely difficult to fight on, but of course both sides are acclimatized to it.
That is true, and just like what I said earlier, Taliban has been trained to fight on this terrain. Please remember that Taliban was able to take on the American forces on this terrain, and American forces had no response to this really. And therefore, even though Pakistani army is used to the terrain, because Taliban has been, in fact, homegrown on this terrain, I think they will have an advantage. And I tend to believe, when they say that they have captured 15 posts, I think they should be able to do that. But we don't know really the truth till actually one has a reliable report. But quite of it.
Yes, indeed. And is this a conflict a symptom of this post-US withdrawal that we saw under Joe Biden in 2021?
I don't know whether this is a consequence of USA withdrawing, because if USA had not withdrawn, I think we would be seeing even more instability in Afghanistan and skirmishes within Afghanistan, fights going on between American troops and the Taliban, and Pakistan not knowing who to support really, because Taliban is their creation. And USA is actually feeding the Pakistani army both through money and equipment. So Pakistani army will be nothing if the USA withdraws their support to it. So Pakistani army will be actually in a bit of a fix to know what to do. But I think the situation would be even more unstable if Americans had stayed here. Thomas, the problem is that the Americans withdrew from Afghanistan without creating a sufficiently strong security system in the country. They have done that in the past in many other countries. Iraq, same thing. Libya, same thing. So they basically just come, they intrude, they fight with the local militias, and then withdraw when they begin to incur losses.
And Pakistan has framed these actions as Afghanistan's unprovoked aggression. What do we know about this, about the breaking of this ceasefire? Who actually made the first move when it came to the renewed violence?
I don't know. I don't know, but you know, when the situation is so incendiary, a stray shot from either side can start a war. So I don't know, and it doesn't matter really who started it. But the fact is that it is on now.
Okay, Ambassador Goel, do stay with us as we turn over to our next story. We head back over to the United States. The top Democrat on a congressional committee investigating the crimes of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein says Hillary Clinton is answering questions from lawmakers in good faith during a deposition in Chappaqua, New York. California Congressman Robert Garcia stated that Clinton has fully cooperated with the investigation, clarifying that she is not refusing to answer any questions and is not taking the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Garcia emphasized her willingness to answer all the questions posed, although the deposition is part of a wider inquiry into Epstein's criminal activities. Let's take a listen in.
To be clear, she's answering all the questions.
Taking the Fifth at all?
To be clear, she's answering all the questions. I think I can safely say that she's not taking the Fifth. Mr. Garcia herself has said Secretary Clinton never met Jeffrey Epstein. She never visited the island. She never flew on his plane. She also had no knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crimes. So zero knowledge of any wrongdoing. And you've also all heard that directly from her. Secretary Clinton is also completely cooperating with the deposition and the committee and is answering questions in full faith and in good faith. That this committee has now set a new precedent about talking to presidents and former presidents. And we're demanding immediately that we ask President Trump to testify in front of our committee and be deposed in front of oversight Republicans and Democrats. And that should happen immediately. He is the person that appears almost more than anyone else in the committee, and it needs to happen right now.
We stay in the Americas for our next story. The Cuban government has reported that Washington has shown a willingness to cooperate in the investigation of a deadly incident involving a US-bound speedboat. Cuban Coast Guards fired at the boat off the island's northern coast, killing one American and injuring another. A US official confirmed that at least 2 of the victims were US citizens, with 1 dead and another injured. A third individual was on a US K-1 visa, while others may have been legal permanent residents. The incidents left 4 people dead and 11 injured. Authorities from both countries are now cooperating to investigate the shooting. Let's listen into what the Deputy Foreign Minister of Cuba, Carlos Fernández de Cosio, had to say.
Las autoridades del gobierno estadounidense han mostrado disposición a cooperar en el esclarecimiento de estos lamentables hechos. Está en curso un proceso investigativo dirigido a esclarecer los hechos con todo rigor. El gobierno cubano tiene disposición a intercambiar con el estadounidense sobre este hecho. Entre otros requerimientos, desde el primer momento, y habiéndose detectado que el medio naval procedía del territorio de Estados Unidos, las autoridades cubanas han mantenido comunicación sobre este intento terrorista con sus contrapartes estadounidenses, incluyendo el Departamento de Estado y el Servicio de Guardacostas.
Ambassador Goel joins us once again. We're now in a time where Cuba and the United States are at loggerheads, particularly over Donald Trump's hawkish statements. However, does this signify a rare moment of cooperation between Havana and Washington?
Difficult to say, really. I think after the incident happened last night, clearly there would be some kind of an investigation as to what the circumstances were under which this happened, and the attempt would obviously be for the USA to blame the Cuban authorities for aggressiveness in dealing with the situation. We do not know what the facts are. So I think on the whole, an investigation into the case is the best way to go about it. But in this investigation, who says what and who has what view is, we all know that the USA is going to be rather accusatory of Cuba. And the Cuba is going to accuse the USA of launching an act against, or at least the Cubans who are living in the USA, colluding with them to change the government in Cuba. I think they have already said so. So let us see what happens in the investigation. But I do not think that this incident is going to be blown out of proportion by either side.
And one American has died in this.
Yes.
At least one of the two victims were, one of the four victims were American citizens. Another American was injured. How does the involvement of US citizens, and particularly one that has now been killed, change the diplomatic states?
You know, there will obviously be the questions of as to what was the boat doing in Cuban waters? Why were they intruding into the Cuban space? There will be all these questions. This could be just innocent error of navigation. I doubt it very much, but this could be. You can't rule it out. So there could be all kinds of accusations flying back and forth. I don't know where the investigations are going to lead, including the death of the American citizen. And President Trump or the Americans are going to really build up on that. But then the question would be, why were they doing something like this? So let us see. I really don't want to venture into this thing because there are so many unknowns. Until we really go further on the investigation, it is not going. There is no point really venturing any guesses or speculate.
Ambassador Goel, thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Pleasure to talk to you as always. We stay in the United States for our next story. We move to a major development coming out of the tech world. Paramount Skydance is set to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery after Netflix dropped out of the bidding war. Despite having a deal in place with Netflix, Warner Brothers Discovery called Paramount's $31 per share offer superior. Netflix, which had agreed to buy most of Warner Brothers Discovery in December, decided not to match Paramount's latest bid, saying it was no longer financially attractive. The Netflix deal was valued at nearly $83 billion, while Paramount's offer totals $111 billion, including Warner Brothers Discovery's cable channels. In response, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav praised Netflix leaders for their partnership throughout the process, wishing them well. He expressed excitement about the merger with Paramount Skydance, stating it will create tremendous value for shareholders. Zaslav is eager to combine forces and start telling impactful stories together. Of course, this comes as with a major development, of course, as that first deal came in, that first offer came in from Netflix with Paramount then outbidding Netflix. It has now been confirmed that Paramount Skydance is set to acquire Warner Brothers. Joining us now is Andrew K.P. Liang, an independent China strategist, joining us live from Hong Kong. How might this change the entertainment world, Andrew? Paramount Skydance is now set to acquire this huge library of Warner Brothers. Going forward, how might this change how we consume our entertainment?
Well, you put your finger on it, Thomas. I think that there's a dynamic paradigm shift in the entertainment world, which has become much more up close and personal with mobile phones, computers, but also iPads, and there's a lot of streaming of the content, rather than just people watching whole films in cinemas. You're seeing a lot of people using their mobile devices to get access to entertainment pieces, whether medium range or even short video clips. Um, and so that's point number one. The point number two, someone has been saying that competition is for losers. The only game in town is a monopoly, or at least the predominant player, and you can see the big money made by the predominant player in many different fields. You started with Apple, for example, the only game in town, and then you have even in the older days, the big screens, the silver screens, always the big guys monopolizing the market and marginalizing the competitors. So that's why Paramount is now putting all in to acquire Warner Brothers, but also Warner Brothers owns a number of very valuable franchises, including Harry Potter, and various other films and content. But by possessing this intellectual property over these valuable contents, it translates into a great deal of sale revenue coming from toys and branded commodities, cuts across many different fields. It's not just streaming. Well, think about, for example, the in China, the Labubu phenomenon. Once you create a name, once you popularize it through various gaming and so on, and you can branch out into souvenirs, into toys, into all sorts of things, or T-shirts and other accessories. So I think that that's what attracts the Paramount acquisition.
Indeed, Andrew. And what more can you tell us about this? How might this affect Paramount as a company? Warner Brothers Discovery, of course, a significant studio producing from the likes to Harry Potter to that of Transformers, and also the cable channels included as well. What more can you tell us about how Paramount's library might be affected, and how other streaming services will react to this?
Well, Paramount, of course, has the advantage of being some of the longest established cinema. I remember when I was small, we were already reaching, watching Paramount films or movies on the screen. And so they have a great deal of experience, a great deal of traction in this field. And now they're pivoting towards the internet, the digital world, and the streaming connectivity across all platforms. And that translates into all sorts of things, as I mentioned, into toys, into branded commodities, and then even entertainment centers, sort of branded and combining watching films with the experience of purchasing merchandises, translates into family entertainment, game parks, and all sorts of possibilities. So I think that we're beginning to see a paradigm shift in how people regard entertainment. It's not just sedentary. I mean, you can watch a film using a mobile phone with your family, or you can go to a theme park, or you can just watch special clips as and when your time allow on the go. So I think that there's all sorts of possibilities out there, which explain Paramount's this acquisition strategy.
Andrew KP Leung, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us. It's always a great pleasure to talk to you here on NewsX World. We now move on to our next story. We move to the Indo-Pacific. The navies of the Philippines, US and Japan have conducted joint military drills in the South China Sea to boost military cooperation. Since 2023, the Philippines has partnered with multiple countries to assert its rights in the South China Sea, a region claimed by China. Reports suggest the drills focused on enhancing interoperability, maritime security and domain awareness. The Philippines reportedly deployed the Antonio Luna frigate, helicopters and fighter jets, while Japan contributed a P-3 Orion and the US sent the USS Dewey guided missile destroyer and a Poseidon plane. Exercises included replenishment at sea, joint air patrols, flybys and communication checks. Well, that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.